Welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve, where communication matters. Join us as we discuss effective ways to communicate, bridge the gaps, and build long-lasting relationships within your business and life. Here are your hosts, Asha Prasad and Steve Harper.
All right, we're recording, so
Okay,
here we go. All right, welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve. I am Steve Harper, and with me is my comedic sidekick and co-host, Dr. Asha Prasad.
Hey, Steve.
We have clearly
now.
had either way too much adult beverage or too much caffeine. You get to decide on which.
And what we had. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, today we're kind of excited because we've been talking about this kind of happiness track, on
Right.
our last several episodes and following a theme. And one of the things that came up recently is, how do you become a happy entrepreneur? Because, people really struggle with this concept when they're in business. It's like, can you be a happy entrepreneur? I'm happy when I get my business sold. I get an opportunity to get out and go start something else. But, happiness as an entrepreneur is really essential, right? We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs because we do a lot of coaching with the startup community, and happiness should be one of the goals and the mandates that you should have for building your business, because part of the reason you want to be an entrepreneur is the freedom, right? So what do you take from, sort of this topic, how to be a happy entrepreneur?
I mean, I definitely think it's really important. I mean, it's really important to be happy in whatever it is that you're doing. So definitely as an entrepreneur, first of all, finding out, what you're passionate about and going after that, you've got to just commit to yourself that you're going to enjoy your journey. Like
Yeah.
that you are just, no matter what, even the highs and the lows, all the same, because I know that we we go through a lot of lows and it can be very hard to enjoy it, but you've got to find the humor in it. Like Steve and I do a lot of times, we find the humor in it and
If you're
lighten
not
it up.
laughing, you're crying. I mean,
Exactly. It's one or the other. I mean, it's one or the other. But even that you can enjoy,
yeah.
but it really is about enjoying the journey and committing to that, making a commitment to yourself, saying, you know what, no matter what, I'm going for it and I'm going to enjoy it. And even on the days that I'm not, you know what, there's always something to be happy about. There's always something to be grateful about, and finding your way through that. I think that that's really important. Whenever I think about this, being a
Yeah.
happy entrepreneur, I just think about enjoying that process.
And it's a really good reminder for entrepreneurs. Why'd you
Yeah.
do it in the first place, right? You have a great idea, you
Okay.
have a great product, you have a great service, you have a vision, and you believe you can do something with that vision. You can make a lot of money, or you can improve the world, or whatever the case might
Right.
be. But part of that process is recognizing that journey is an opportunity for you to, carve new paths and, create
Right.
new somethings, right? And at the end of the day, I think
Exactly.
you're right. Enjoying the journey is super critical, because we have worked with and far too many entrepreneurs that are not enjoying it, and it's
Yeah.
their business is running them ragged, which is kind of one
Yeah.
of the points I want to make is that at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you don't make the business your life, which I think has a
Yes.
tendency to be a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs. They're all in. I know as an early stage entrepreneur, when I was,
Hmm.
a young buck, I was definitely, I just didn't do anything but work. I mean,
Yeah.
24/7 was all I was thinking about was work, work, work. And that really caused a lot of friction and challenges for me in my personal life, because if everything you talk about is your work, then the people around you just get tired of it, and
Yeah.
it's a real challenge. And you were essential in my life and my career path, because you've coached me so well to start creating opportunities to compartmentalize some of the things that I need to deal with
Hmm.
in short periods of time, but then leave my personal time. I need to recharge. I need to focus on my mental and physical health, and I need to be present for my personal relationships, because it's not
Right.
all about work. Because what good is being a successful entrepreneur if you don't have people around to enjoy that success with you?
Exactly. I mean, that's a really good point, Steve, because it's really interesting, because I know a lot of people, whenever they decide to become an entrepreneur, if you're not cognizant of this, if you're not conscious and aware about this aspect of finding that happiness, you will find yourself very quickly just being another employee, but having the title. I mean, and don't get me wrong, we do work for our companies, okay? But you know what I mean? It's
Wait,
like
you
we
get
will take
paid?
the joy out of. Well, sometimes on a good day.
I'm like, you're gonna have to give me that trick. I don't know how to do
Like, it's rare, but it does happen. Those are happy days.
that.
No, no, but it's one of those things you'll quickly end up in the if you are miserable as an employee, you better believe like if you're not aware of this, that you will end up being a miserable entrepreneur. And that's not what you're really wanting to do. So it is
No.
about living your dream. You've got to go after your dream. How do you envision it? Just because this person and that person over there do it this certain way doesn't mean that that's going to work for you. You've got to figure out what that is and live your dream and follow in that. And that will really ensure, I mean, that's about, I would say, 50% of your happiness will come from that, because you know that you're building your dream and living it from that,
Yeah.
from those priorities and those values. I think that that's something that I've seen over the years for myself, but also in working with other people. And it is true. I mean, haven't you seen that, Steve, where people just go from like working for somebody and then working for themselves, and they have maybe about a month or two that they're really thrilled about it, and then all of a sudden they've reverted back into a certain state of mind, even that keeps them kind of from having that joy and happiness.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of people see the entrepreneurial lifestyle, and
Hmm.
they get sucked into the romanticism of it and don't realize that
Yes.
there's a whole lot of work that has to go in, and there's no safety net, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
they'll leave their employment or the employment of their prior employer, and be like, I could do this, and I can do it better. And that's how I started as an entrepreneur. I mean, I had,
Right.
God loved the company I was working for, but man, it was like the Beverly Hillbillies, tried to come to the market or something, and it just didn't work. But I knew that I had something that could potentially, be of value, and I could do things a
Hmm.
little bit differently. And really, at the end of the day, I proved that out. But man, for that first year, oh man, I was like, oh my God, I was just getting a steady paycheck. I was making commission. I didn't have to worry about
Right.
insurance. I didn't have to like pay all these bills and rent and all this crap that,
Exactly.
phones and, all the responsibilities. And there was a time early on that I almost just hung it up because I'm like, I don't need this stress. I can go make more money working for somebody else than I'll ever make working for myself. And it is tough. And I have
Yeah.
seen those people that do it. They're super excited and they're enthusiastic. And then, like you said, kind of that 2 to 3 month marker when things aren't going the way they thought it would, or, getting a business deal is harder than they anticipated,
Right.
or you're starting, even if you have experience in that space or that industry, you're starting from scratch because now you have a new
Yeah.
company. Before you actually had the infrastructure and the organization behind you, people had that brand. You start a brand from scratch, nobody knows what you are, what you're doing. That's really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a lot of people take the time to think about those things. They just look
No.
at well, gosh, my buddy's running a company and, he gets off on Fridays to go to the lake. And, I want that kind of life. And, well, he probably worked 5 years before he could actually start taking those Fridays off. And he's working on a Saturday
Exactly.
morning and he's working on Sundays. The life is not always obvious as to how hard that is. And I
Yeah,
would tell
that's true.
people, hey, if that's the direction you want to go and you think that that's how you're going to live your dream, like you said, go talk to some entrepreneurs and say, hey, what did you learn? What were some of the
Yeah.
mistakes you made? What are the things that if I'm going into business for myself that I should be conscious of and be aware of, so that you have a clear and realistic picture before you move forward.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because I think it's one of those things that you have to look at. And I mean, all of us want to be happy, right? I mean, happiness is something that we want to experience. And we've got to also realize that it's not always going to be the state that we're going to be in. I mean, finding what brings joy in your life is probably going to be more sustainable than just that happiness state. But once you know that, you can start to figure out that fine balance of that personal and professional life and what works for you
Yeah.
in order to maintain this. Yeah.
I agree. I'd also say that really one of the opportunities I think for the most part is that when you decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur is that you want to find that balance so that we talked
Yeah.
about that. We talked about it on the last episode actually about the fact that you can't just work 24/7. You've got to find
No.
sort of the avenue that makes sense to put the proper attention and focus and energy towards your business, but you
Yeah.
also have to take a step back from your business because if you're in it all the time, then you never get away so that you can recharge. And to recharge in that time, that you're making for yourself is actually when some of the best ideas come, right?
Yeah.
Innovation and creativity really is spurned oftentimes by, getting away from the day to day craziness. And I think that there's a big factor there that to be a happy entrepreneur, you have to recognize that work, whatever that percentage is 30% or
Right.
40% or 60% of your life. You have to make sure that you're offsetting that so that the scales are fairly balanced. You're taking care of yourself mentally. You're taking care of yourself physically. You're doing everything to have other interests outside of just 100% pouring into your entrepreneurial venture, or you will burn out and you will be
Yes.
miserable.
Yep, that is very true. It's funny because sometimes I often say I am the most productive when I'm doing nothing because it's really in those times that the inspiration comes, the
Yeah.
innovation comes like, oh, wow, I could be doing this instead, or wow, this is a great idea. And if I don't allow for room for that, and this goes for everybody, if you don't allow for room for that, you're not going to let that come to you. You're not going to let it flow to you. You're going to be so busy and so burnt out and tired and overworked and all of that stuff. And you know what? It's very, very hard to be inspired in that state.
Yeah.
It
Well,
really is.
if you want to put that to a physical test, turn on your television really loud, then pop open your laptop and put on Spotify, open your phone and play Apple Music, and then on whatever other device you have, a tablet, start a podcast. And all those things happening at one time is really what is the challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes,
And you're trying to go at everything, trying to pay attention to all these different things at one time. You can't do it, right? It's
exactly.
overload. And the reality is that that's kind of how life is, and that's how work is. And so you have to find the things that you can pay your attention to and focus on when and where you can. And then you also have to take a step back so that you turn all of that off so it's quiet
Yeah.
and you can do the reset. I mean, you taught me that a long time ago, which has made a huge difference in my life and quite honestly my entrepreneurial success, because those little moments of kind of rest or respite, if you will, really
Right.
have been critical in terms of how I've come up with some of the strategies and ideas and approaches that I want to take with my business. And I would never have gotten there if I had four things just blaring at me the whole time.
Right. No, I think it is really important. I mean, so for those people out there that are struggling with this, it may be a time for just kind of a timeout, a break,
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be a big break, but maybe it could be something that you just work into your daily life where you've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes just for yourself, just to
absolutely.
be able to just, shut off everything and just be, be still, be quiet, whatever it is, to let that, to let yourself kind of rejuvenate.
Absolutely.
I think it's
And
important.
I think at the end of the day, how to be a happy entrepreneur, at least in my mindset, is to know that you're building something that can be your legacy or makes a difference
Yes.
and contributes to the world in some capacity, whether that's your product, your service, or just your approach to how you put whatever it is out there for you.
Right.
But, that ultimate happiness to me is when you are able to grow a business that isn't 100% on you and it can sustain without you so that you can take
Yeah.
those times away. I'm reading, rereading actually one of Tim Ferriss's books that talks about how can you take your business into where you only do your work, only have to spend 30 minutes
Hmm.
to an hour on it a day. And imagine the
Wow.
freedom that that gives you.
Wow.
And really, what that does is it really requires you to rethink your business, your processes, your approach, the delegation. We've talked about that for many episodes here. And
Yeah,
if you were to really gear that business around how it really doesn't require you to operate, well, that's the ultimate freedom. And that's what I think
that is.
entrepreneurship is freedom.
Yeah,
And
I
freedom to
agree
make
with you.
more
Wow,
money,
that's
make
great.
what you want, live the life you want, but at the end of the day, still be building something of value.
I think that that's well said, Steve. That's great. That's a great reminder. I've got to revisit that book. That's a
Yeah,
great
Tools of the
reminder.
Titans, I think is the
Yeah.
one that comes out of that. I actually have incorporated that book into my daily routine where I meditate, I journal, and then I read one of his interviews from there. And almost all the time, it's like something that just happens to hit me at the right time and kind of inspire and motivate me. That actually came up yesterday. So, it's perfect timing.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. Well, so Asha, we'd love to hear from our audience. Love to hear what they think about this. What they view this and how they view what it takes to be a happy entrepreneur. So how might they go about reaching out to us, connecting with us, getting and being part of this conversation?
So you can find our website, conversationswithashaandsteve.com. You can visit us there, contact us through the website, or find us on Facebook or Instagram and reach out to us there. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what are you doing to make sure that
Yeah.
you are a happy entrepreneur. We'd love to hear that.
And if you're unhappy, I would highly recommend that you check out Dr. Asha Prasad's website, because you've got several programs that can kind of help get you back on track, right? So how do they find that, just so they know?
Yeah, so you can go to drashaprasad.com and you can find out what I'm about. I'm a really big mindset person, Steve, like with working with people,
Yeah,
because it's something I've noticed even for myself personally along the years, how just vitally important that is. And happiness is around that too. How you're
absolutely.
thinking and what you're doing really matters. So, yeah, check out what I'm doing over there if you get a chance.
I love it. All right. Well, listen, we'll be back again very soon with another episode. Actually, it's going to be a big episode. It's our
Yes, it
100th
is.
episode. I don't know if we're going to have party favors or, any kind of celebratory graphics, but, I can't believe Asha has stuck around long enough to be with me for 100 episodes, but we'll be celebrating that in the next episode. So until then, thanks for joining us for Conversations with Asha and Steve. And Asha, we will be back soon with that next episode.
Sounds good. Till next
Take
time.
care.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve. We love to hear feedback and questions from our listeners. Please feel free to visit our Facebook page for more tips and information. You can also email us directly at info@ripplecentral.com for more information.